Hey, so tonight we're going to peel back the polished veneer of gold sarcophagi and the majestic silence of the pyramids. Forget the Hollywood epics and the myth of a serene, godlike existence. We're diving into the brutal, often monotonous, and profoundly human reality of day-to-day life in ancient Egypt. This wasn't a land of endless mystical wonder for everyone, but a world of sweat, grime, and the relentless rhythm of the Nile. If you're ready to trade your comfortable chair for a sun-baked mudbrick and your modern meal for a handful of lentils, then settle in. But first, do me a solid. Smash that like button, all right? Find that cozy spot. Pull your blanket a little tighter. You wake not to the gentle chime of an alarm, but to the insistent, hot breath of the Egyptian dawn. The air is already thick with the promise of relentless heat, even before the sun crests the eastern horizon. Your bed is a simple mat on a compacted mud floor, and the sounds filtering through the open doorway of your mudbrick hut are the first stirrings of the village. A donkey's bray, the distant bleating of a goat, the murmur of your family already preparing for the day. You pull on your simple linen kilt, rough against your skin, and step out the cool, damp air of pre-dawn, a fleeting blessing against the rising warmth. This is your world, year in and year out, dictated by the mighty Nile. You live on a narrow strip of black earth, a ribbon of life carved between the vast, encroaching desert and the river's unpredictable embrace. For you, the annual flood, the *Akit*, isn't a natural phenomenon to be studied from a safe distance. It is the very pulse of your existence, a force both benevolent and terrifying. You remember the anticipation, a collective held breath across the land as the dog days of summer wore on, and the river began its slow, inevitable swelling. The water, a murky brown, would creep higher and higher, swallowing the banks, then the pathways, eventually submerging the fields. You'd help your family move what little you owned to higher ground, your younger siblings clinging to your legs, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder as the world transformed into a vast inland sea. The smells during this time were intense. The rich, earthy scent of saturated soil, the metallic temps of fresh water, and the pungent odor of animal dung mixing with the dampness. The sounds were different, too. The constant lapping of water replacing the rustle of dry reeds. When the flood finally receded, leaving behind a thick, black layer of fertile silt, a collective sigh of relief would ripple through your community. This rich, dark mud, a gift from the gods, was the very foundation of your meager prosperity. Without it, you were nothing. Now, as the planting season, truly begins, your muscles are already accustomed to the ache. You've spent weeks helping prepare the fields, breaking up the caked, sun-hardened earth with a wooden hoe, your hands calloused and cracked. The first plowing is a brutal affair. You harness a pair of oxen, their heavy breaths fogging the air in the cooler morning, to a simple wooden plow. The plowshare, barely more than a hardened stick, struggles against the soil, and you lean into the handles, guiding the beasts, feeling every tremor through the wood as the earth gives way. The sun, even in these early months, beats down with an unforgiving intensity, quickly soaking your linen with sweat. Dust coats your throat, your hair, your eyelashes, forming a grimy mask on your face. You feel the grit between your teeth with every labored breath, The air is alive with the hum of insects, the lowing of cattle, and the shouted commands of overseers, even on the smallest plots. Once the initial breaking of the soil is done, the meticulous work of sowing begins. You walk with a rhythmic, measured pace, scattering handfuls of precious barley or immer wheat seeds across the freshly turned earth. Each seed is a promise, a prayer to Osiris, god of the underworld and resurrection, that the harvest will be plentiful. The future of your family, your village, hinges on these tiny, dry kernels. Then comes the critical task of irrigation. The Nile has left its bounty, but the sun is an ever-present enemy, threatening to parch the tender shoots. You spend hours, days, weeks, working a shadoof, a simple but ingenious counterweighted lever that allows you to lift water from a canal or a lower-lying area to higher fields. The motion is repetitive, almost hypnotic. You step onto the pivot, lowering the bucket into the water with a splash. Feel the sudden release of weight as the bucket fills. Then hoist it up, the counterweight doing most of the work, and tip the water into a carefully dug furrow. Splash, lift, pour, splash, lift, pour. Your back aches, your shoulders burn, your hands are raw from gripping the rough rope. The sound of the water, cool and life-giving, is a constant backdrop, almost a taunt against your increasing thirst. You feel the sun baking your exposed skin, the flies buzzing relentlessly around your face, and the gnawing emptiness in your stomach, a constant companion. The plants grow, a testament to your endless toil and the Nile's generosity. You watch them, praying for no sudden pestilence, no unexpected drought. And then the harvest season, Shemu, arrives, the culmination of all your efforts. This is a time of immense labor, but also a sense of communal purpose. Men, women, and even older children work side by side in the fields. The air filled with the rustle of dry stalks, the rhythmic thwack of sickles, and the accompanying songs that help dull the monotony of the work. You use a simple wooden sickle, its flint or copper blade honed sharp, to cut the stalks of wheat or barley just below the head. The stubble left behind scratches your ankles, and the chaff irritates your eyes and nose. You bind the cut stalks into sheaves, heavy bundles that you then carry on your head or shoulder to the threshing floor. The sun is at its fiercest now, beating down mercilessly. You can feel the heat radiating off the baked earth, and the air shimmers above the fields on the threshing floor, usually a large, compacted area near the village. The real work of separating grain from straw begins. Oxen or donkeys, sometimes even human feet, are driven over the piled sheaves, trampling the grain to loosen it. The dust is incredible, a choking cloud of chaff and fine earth that gets into everything. Your throat is perpetually dry, your eyes gritty. Then comes the winnowing. You use a broad, flat wooden scoop to toss the threshed grain into the air. The wind, if it blesses you with its presence, carries away the lighter chaff, while the heavier grain falls back to the ground. This is a delicate dance with the elements, and a poorly timed gust can send precious food scattering. Finally, the grain, hard and golden, is collected and stored in communal granaries, sealed against pests and the elements. A portion of this, you know, is not yours. Your home is a small, rectangular mudbrick hut. no more than 1 or 2 rooms. The walls, made of sun-dried Nile mud and straw, keep the interior surprisingly cool during the day, but radiate heat long into the night. There are no windows, just a single low doorway covered by a simple mat. Inside, it is dark, even at midday, illuminated only by the light filtering through the door or the occasional flickering oil lamp. Your possessions are few: a few clay pots for cooking and storing water, a grinding stone for milling grain, mats for sleeping, and perhaps a small wooden stool or chest. You share this space with your family, parents, siblings, perhaps an elderly relative, and often with your animals, a goat or a few chickens seeking shelter from the sun. The smell inside is a mixture of damp earth, wood smoke from the cooking fire, the faint odor of unwashed bodies, and the distinct, ever-present scent of animals. It's a smell of life, of survival, of simple existence. Your diet is monotonous but sustaining. Every single day, your main meal consists of bread, beer, onions, and perhaps a few dates or figs when in season. Your wife or your mother spends hours each morning grinding grain into flour on a large stone quern. The rhythmic rasping sound, a constant fixture of village life. The bread, coarse and often gritty from the flour, is baked in a small clay oven or on a hot stone. It's hard work, the constant bending over the quern, the heat from the oven. The beer isn't what you know today. It's a thick, nutritious, somewhat sour liquid, almost a food in itself, made from fermented barley. You drink it throughout the day, often with every meal. You might catch fish from the canals or the Nile, a welcome addition of protein. Its taste smoky and rich when grilled over an open fire. Meat, however, is a rare luxury, reserved for festivals or the occasional lucky hunt. You crave its richness, its fat, but it is not a daily reality. The scarcity makes it all the more precious when it appears. You eat with your hands, sitting on the floor, sharing from communal bowls, the quiet conversation of your family, the only background sound. Your clothes are simple, practical, designed for the heat and the demands of labor. For men, a linen kilt tied at the waist, sometimes a tunic. For women, a more elaborate linen dress, often falling to the ankles, with shoulder straps. The linen is rough at first, but softens with repeated washing in the Nile. It provides protection from the sun, but allows air to circulate, a vital defense against the relentless heat. You own maybe 2 or 3 sets, washed regularly, often just rinsed in the river and left to dry on a rock. There is no concept of fashion, merely function. Your tools are rudimentary, born of necessity and millennia of tradition. Wooden plows, sickles with flint or copper blades, hoes for breaking soil, baskets for carrying grain or mudbricks, and the ever-present asterisk, SHADO, of asterisk. You learn to use them from a young age, your father's calloused hands guiding yours. You feel the weight of the hoe, the balance of the sickle, the way the coarse rope of the asterisk shadoof asterisk bites into your palms. You repair them yourself when they break, patching worn wood, replacing dull flint. These tools are extensions of your body, essential for your survival. Family life is the bedrock of your existence. You rise with the sun, work until it sets, and fall into exhausted sleep. Children are not a luxury, but a necessity. Extra hands for work from an early age. Boys learn from their fathers in the fields, girls from their mothers in the home, grinding grain, preparing food, weaving. Women are integral to the household economy, managing the home, raising children, and often helping in the fields during peak seasons. There is a strong sense of community, of shared hardship, and shared celebration. When a neighbor's crop fails, you offer what you can. When a child is born, the village rejoices. You gather in the evenings, before the darkness fully settles, sharing stories, perhaps a riddle or two. The only light from a small fire, the stars above a brilliant, unpolluted expanse, but looming over everything. More omnipresent than the sun or the Nile is the hand of the state and the burden of taxes. You know that a portion of every harvest, usually a significant one, belongs to the pharaoh, to the temples, or to the local nobility. When the scribes come, usually after the harvest, their clean linen contrasting sharply with your grime-streaked clothes, a hush falls over the village. They measure your fields, assess your yield, and then, with their meticulous calculations on papyrus, declare your due. There is no arguing, no bargaining. To defy them is to defy the pharaoh, and to defy the pharaoh is to invite severe punishment. You watch, stomach churning, as your hard-won grain is carted away to the royal Granaries. Beyond the agricultural taxes, there is the corvée labor, the forced conscription for public works. One day, a messenger arrives, and you are told that for a certain number of weeks, you will leave your fields, your family, your village, and travel to a distant quarry or a temple construction site. You will haul massive stones, dig canals, or build mudbrick walls. This is grueling, back-breaking work, often under the lash of an overseer, with meager rations and harsh living conditions. You feel the chafing of the ropes on your shoulders as you drag a heavy sled, the burning sensation in your lungs from the dust, the constant thirst, the overwhelming fatigue. Yet, you do it. This is your duty to the gods, to the pharaoh, to the very fabric of Egyptian society. It is the cost of living in this organized, magnificent, yet brutal land. You are a cog in a vast machine, your individual hardship, a necessary sacrifice for the glory of the empire. You build pyramids that will last for millennia, temples that inspire awe, not for your own glory, but for the immortal soul of the pharaoh and the divine order of the two lands you build. And you suffer, and you accept it as the way of the world. Health is a constant worry. The Nile, while life-giving, is also a source of disease. Bilharzia, dysentery, parasitic infections are common. You've seen countless neighbors, friends, even family members succumb to illnesses that you can't comprehend. A simple cut can turn septic and lead to a limb being lost, or worse. Childbirth is fraught with danger for both mother and infant. Doctors, when they exist, are for the wealthy or the elite. For you, there are only folk remedies, the wisdom of the village elder, and prayers to the gods, Sekhmet, goddess of healing, or Tauret, protector of childbirth. You accept pain as a part of life and death as an ever-present shadow. The stoicism is bred into you, a necessary defense against the harsh realities. You feel the ache of old injuries, the persistent cough from years of dust inhalation, the dull throb of a malarial fever, and you keep working. You have no other choice. Despite the hardship, there is a profound resilience within you, a deep spiritual connection to the land that sustains you. You understand that your life is inextricably linked to the cycles of the Nile, to the sun, to the very earth beneath your feet. You make offerings to Hapi, the god of the Nile flood, and to Renenutet, the goddess of the harvest. Your rituals are simple, your faith deep. You believe in a cosmic order, Matt, and your place within it. The shared suffering, the communal labor, the simple pleasures of a good harvest, a healthy child, a cool evening breeze after a scorching day. These are the threads that weave together the tapestry of your life. You hear the rhythmic splash of the asterisk, shadoof, asterisk, at dusk, a sound that has echoed across this valley for thousands of years, and you know, deep in your bones, that this is the rhythm of life itself. You are a peasant, one of millions, anonymous in the grand annals of history. Yet you are the very foundation upon which a civilization of unparalleled grandeur is built. And as you finally lay your aching body down on your mat, the coolness of the mud floor a small comfort, the stars above are a silent, eternal witness to your unwavering strength. Forget the pristine, silent grandeur of the temples and tombs you've seen in pictures. Tonight, you're stepping into the heart of a bustling ancient Egyptian city, a sensory assault that will shock your modern sensibilities. Imagine, for a moment, that you are not in your quiet room, but standing on a narrow, unpaved street just as the sun begins to kiss the eastern sky. The air, initially cool with the residue of night, rapidly warms, carrying with it a complex tapestry of smells, damp earth from overnight watering, the pungent aroma of animal dung from beasts of burden already on the move, the sweet, cloying scent of dates and figs from a nearby vendor, and the unmistakable, slightly acrid temps of wood smoke from countless cooking fires. The city isn't built of enduring stone like the monuments of the dead. It's a sprawling, organic entity of mudbrick. The walls of the houses, baked hard by the sun, range in color from a pale ochre to a deep, ruddy brown, creating a labyrinthine network of narrow alleys. You walk on uneven ground, dust rising with every step, mixing with the fine sand that has drifted in from the surrounding desert. There are no smooth, paved sidewalks. Here, every step is a conscious act. The sounds gradually swell from a gentle murmur to a cacophony, the rhythmic slap-slap of sandals on the ground, the shouts of merchants hawking their wares, the insistent bleating of goats being herded through the streets, the distant clang of a coppersmith's hammer, the high-pitched chatter of women bartering in the market, and the omnipresent, mournful bray of a donkey heavily laden with goods. You are moving through a dense urban fabric, tightly packed housing, shops, and workshops stacked close together. Sanitation, as you understand it, is virtually non-existent. There are no municipal sewage systems. Waste, both human and animal, is generally collected in pots, and then, when full, dumped outside the city walls or into the nearest canal. The smell in certain alleys, especially those near the communal dumping grounds or where canals run sluggishly, can be overwhelming, a thick, fetid stench that makes your eyes water. Flies are everywhere, a constant, irritating presence, buzzing around exposed food, settling on skin, a carrier of disease you can't yet comprehend. You learn to swat instinctively, to turn your head from the worst odors, to navigate the uneven terrain where sewage might have seeped from inadequate containers. As you venture deeper into the city, you begin to discern its beating heart, the market. Here, the sensory overload reaches its peak. You're jostled by a throng of people, farmers bringing in their produce, craftsmen selling their goods, housewives haggling for the best prices, officials moving with an air of self-importance. The air pulses with human energy. Imagine a sea of faces, all shades of brown from the constant sun, dressed in simple linen kilts and dresses, their eyes bright and sharp, constantly assessing, constantly calculating. Merchants sit cross-legged on mats, their wares spread out before them. You see towering piles of fresh vegetables, dark green leeks, crisp lettuce, garlic, onions, cucumbers. There are baskets overflowing with dates, figs, grapes, and pomegranates, their sweet scent a welcome counterpoint to the city's other odors. A fishmonger proudly displays his catch from the Nile, the silver scales still glistening, though the flies are already at work. The smell of fresh fish, distinct and slightly metallic, mingles with the sweeter notes of fruit. Bread sellers offer fresh-baked loaves, warm and earthy smelling, often still steaming from the clay oven. Butcher stalls, less common in everyday markets due to the scarcity of meat, might offer a limited selection of goat or bird, drawing a swarm of flies. There's no refrigeration, so everything is fresh, bought and consumed on the same day. The haggling is loud, boisterous, an intricate dance of persuasion and stubbornness, as prices are negotiated not with coins, which are rare in early periods, but through barter. A basket of onions for a length of linen, a handful of dates for a clay pot to fish for a small beer. You hear the cadence of these negotiations, the raised voices, the exaggerated gestures, a performance as old as trade itself. Beyond the food stalls, you find sections dedicated to crafts. Here, the sounds and smells shift. The rhythmic tap-tap-tap of a stonemason working on a small statue, the whisper of a scribe's brush on papyrus, the gentle clinking of beads from a jeweler's stall, the metallic temps and deeper clang of a coppersmith hammering out a vessel. You watch, fascinated, as a potter spins his wheel with his foot, shaping a lump of clay into an elegant jar with practiced ease, his hands covered in wet, earthy mud. The distinct, musky smell of damp clay hangs in the air. Over there, a weaver sits patiently at her loom, the shuttles flying back and forth, creating intricate patterns in linen. Her fingers move with a speed born of years of practice, the faint scent of clean, starched linen around her. The division of labor is clear. You might be watching a wig maker carefully braiding human hair or plant fibers onto a cap, preparing it for the wealthy elite who value their elaborate coiffures, or perhaps a sandal maker meticulously cutting leather and binding it with twine, each pair a small work of art. The smell of cured leather, earthy and animalistic, is strong here. The air carries the faint scent of perfumes and unguents from a perfumer's stall, where exotic oils and resins are blended to create fragrant concoctions for the elite, a stark contrast to the more common odors of the city. You observe scribes, distinguished by their clean linen and often a small, portable palette for ink, ready to draft a letter, draw up a contract, or record a transaction for anyone who can afford their services. They move with an air of quiet authority, their literacy setting them apart. Social stratification is starkly visible even in the marketplace. While the majority are commoners in simple kilts, you will occasionally spot an official or a wealthy merchant. They are dressed in finer, whiter linen, perhaps a pleated kilt or a more elaborate dress for a woman, sometimes adorned with jewelry, a gold necklace, a carnelian bracelet. Their skin might be paler, protected from the sun, and their demeanor more refined. They move with an entourage, or at least with an air that commands deference, and often have servants to carry their purchases. You notice their distinct perfumes, a more elegant and costly scent than the general populace. You, a commoner, would instinctively make way for them, your eyes lowered slightly in respect, acknowledging the invisible lines of power and status that crisscross this ancient society beyond the marketplace. Deeper into the residential areas, the streets become even narrower, sometimes barely wide enough for two people to pass. The houses are packed tightly together, often sharing walls, some rising 2 or even 3 stories high. They are almost uniformly constructed of mud brick, but the homes of the wealthy might be larger, with inner courtyards, perhaps a small garden, and walls painted white to reflect the sun. Inside, the differences are more pronounced. Your mud brick hut is dark, sparsely furnished, with mats on the floor and a few clay pots. The wealthy citizen's home, however, might boast painted walls depicting scenes of daily life or religious motifs. More elaborate furniture, like beds with woven frames, carved wooden chairs, and chests filled with fine linen, jewelry, and personal effects. They would have a dedicated kitchen area, perhaps an indoor latrine that drains into a sealed pit, and a roof terrace where they could catch the evening breeze and sleep on hotter nights, protected by screens. The air in these homes might be scented with incense, the sounds muted by thicker walls and enclosed courtyards. The city, though bustling, has its quiet corners. You might stumble upon a small local temple, its mud brick walls less imposing than the grand state temples, but still a place of reverence. Here, offerings of bread, beer, and flowers are left for the local deities, and priests, dressed in white linen, perform daily rituals. The air within these sacred spaces often carries the heavy, sweet smell of incense, creating an atmosphere of calm and devotion, a stark contrast to the lively chaos outside. You might hear the low chanting of a priest, the quiet rustle of an offering being placed, or the murmur of a worshipper's prayer as the day wears on. The sun climbs to its zenith, beating down with a fierce, almost unbearable intensity. Activity slows in the early afternoon. Many retreat indoors, or find patches of shade beneath awnings, or within courtyards, seeking refuge from the oppressive heat. The market, though still open, sees fewer people. The air becomes heavy, almost tangible, with the heat. You can feel the sweat trickling down your back, your throat parched. Water, stored in porous clay jars, is essential. Its coolness a fleeting balm. As evening approaches, the city slowly reawakens. The air begins to cool, ever so slightly, and people emerge from their homes. The market picks up again, though with a different energy, perhaps less frantic, more focused on evening meals. The smells of cooking fires become more prevalent, the savory aroma of grilling fish or stewed vegetables filling the air. Families gather on their rooftops or in inner courtyards to eat their evening meal, to talk, to share the day's events. You can hear the distant sounds of music, a lyre, a flute, the rhythmic beat of a hand drum from some wealthier household, perhaps celebrating a special occasion. Laughter and conversation drift on the cooling breeze. Night falls quickly in Egypt, a deep, velvety darkness under a sky ablaze with stars. The streets become darker, lit only by the occasional oil lamp or the glow from open doorways. The city's sounds transform, the daytime clamor giving way to the chirping of crickets, the distant howl of a jackal from the desert's edge, the murmurs of conversations behind mud-brick walls, and the occasional barking of a dog. Thieves might prowl the darker alleys, and commoners would generally stay within their homes or close to well-lit areas. For you, the common citizen, night is a time for rest, for family, and for escaping the intense heat of the day. You lie on your mat, the silence of the night, broken only by the gentle breathing of your family, a welcome respite. You feel the cool mud floor beneath you, the rough linen against your skin, and drift off to sleep, only to awaken and repeat the relentless rhythm of this ancient mud-brick metropolis all over again. Tonight, you're not a peasant in the field or a merchant in the market. You are, for a moment, an observer, standing in the long, cool shadows cast by the pharaoh's authority, feeling the vast, intricate machinery of his divine rule and complex bureaucracy. This isn't just about a powerful king. It's about a deeply ingrained system where every aspect of life, from the lowliest farmer's crop to the grandest temple construction, is meticulously managed, recorded, and justified by a sacred order. You walk not on the dusty paths of a village, but through the wide, cleaner avenues of a city district dedicated to administration. The buildings here are still mud brick, but they are larger, more regularly constructed, often whitewashed. You notice fewer small shops and more enclosed compounds, the air quieter, more ordered. The distinctive smell here is of papyrus, a faint, sweet, grassy scent, and ink, a more earthy, mineral aroma. The sounds are hushed, respectful, the scratch of reed pens on papyrus, the soft rustle of scrolls, the low, authoritative voices of officials. The occasional tap of a wooden seal. At the heart of this system is the pharaoh, a living god, a direct descendant of the sun god Ra, the embodiment of Horus. You never see him directly, not unless you are one of the highest elite, but his presence is everywhere. His colossal statues adorn temple entrances. His name is inscribed on every significant building, and his decrees echo through every level of society. You understand that he is not just a ruler, but the keeper of Ma'at, cosmic order, truth, and justice. His very existence ensures the sun rises, the Nile floods, and Egypt prospers. This belief is not merely propaganda. It is the fundamental truth upon which your world is built. To question the pharaoh is to question the gods, to invite chaos, to jeopardize the very existence of Egypt. You feel a profound awe tinged with a healthy fear whenever his name is invoked. His power is absolute, his authority unquestionable to manage this sprawling kingdom. The pharaoh relies on a vast, intricate bureaucracy, a pyramid of power that mirrors the social hierarchy. At the apex, just below the pharaoh, is the vizier. Imagine this person as the prime minister, chief justice, and head of all administration rolled into one. You might catch a glimpse of a vizier's procession. He would ride in a sedan chair, carried by strong bearers, surrounded by guards and retainers, his linen impeccably white, his jewels gleaming. His face would be stern, his gaze distant, burdened by the immense responsibility of overseeing everything from tax collection to the state granaries, from the irrigation systems to the royal construction projects. He is the pharaoh's right hand, the one who brings order out of potential chaos, translating divine will into earthly management. Below the vizier, a legion of officials and administrators operates. You see them bustling through these administrative compounds, the overseers of the treasury, meticulously tracking the kingdom's wealth in grain, gold, and other commodities. The overseers of the granaries, ensuring the storage and distribution of the life-sustaining harvests. The overseers of public works, directing the vast armies of *corvée laborers. Each has their own staff, their own offices, their own complex records. Their authority, though delegated, is real and immediate. You, as a commoner, would interact with the lower echelons of this system, the local district governors, the village scribes, the tax collectors. These are the faces of the pharaoh's power that you encounter most directly, and your livelihood often depends on their judgment. But the true backbone of this bureaucracy, the silent engines of the administration, are the scribes. You often see them, distinctive figures with their palettes and reed pens, moving with a quiet confidence. They are the educated elite, highly valued for their literacy in a largely illiterate society. You might watch a scribe at work in an open courtyard, crouched, his kilt spread to form a writing surface, a piece of papyrus laid out before him. His reed pen dips into a small pot of black ink made from soot and water, or red ink from ochre, and his hand moves with practiced elegance, forming the intricate hieroglyphic, or hieratic, script. The sound is a faint scratch, a whisper against the papyrus. The scribes record everything: land deeds, tax receipts, census figures, court judgments, temple inventories, even the daily progress of construction projects. They are the memory of the state, the chroniclers of its power. You feel a blend of respect and envy for their position, their ability to wield knowledge, which is a powerful weapon in itself. They are exempt from manual labor, fed and clothed by the state, and their career path offers genuine social mobility. They are the gatekeepers of information, interpreting the complexities of the law and the whims of the pharaoh for the common populace. Justice, too, falls under the umbrella of the pharaoh's divine rule. It is ultimately administered in his name, a reflection of Mat. For minor disputes in your village, a quarrel over irrigation rights, a theft of tools, a disagreement over property, you would bring your case before a council of local elders or a district official. Imagine sitting in a small, dusty courtyard, the sun beating down, as two villagers argue their case, presenting their evidence, often relying on the testimony of witnesses. There are no lawyers, as you know them. You speak for yourself. The official listens, questions, and then makes a judgment, often guided by customary law and the principles of Mat. The verdict might involve restitution, a fine, or, for more serious offenses, corporal punishment. The fear of being found guilty, of facing the lash, or even mutilation for serious crimes, is a potent deterrent. For more significant cases, involving disputes between powerful individuals or crimes against the state. The case would ascend to higher courts, presided over by scribes and high-ranking officials. Here, the proceedings are more formal, the records more meticulously kept. The punishments can be severe: exile to the harsh desert mines, forced labor, or even execution. You know that fairness, though a stated ideal, can often be swayed. A powerful man has a better chance of influencing a judgment than a lowly farmer. This understanding is ingrained, a pragmatic acceptance of the social order. The temples are another pillar of the pharaoh's authority and the peekaboo administration's reach. They are not merely places of worship. They are massive economic engines, landholders, employers, and centers of learning. As you approach a major temple, even from a distance, you are struck by its sheer scale, its towering pylon gates, carved with monumental images of the pharaoh smiting his enemies or making offerings to the gods, dominate the skyline. The walls, made of durable sandstone, are covered with intricate hieroglyphs and vibrant paintings depicting divine rituals, the deeds of the gods, and the pharaoh's piety. The air around the temple is thick with the scent of incense, a blend of resins and aromatic woods, constantly burning as offerings to the deities. The sounds are of chanting priests, the low murmur of worshippers, and the occasional blast of a trumpet during a procession. Within the temple complex, you would find not just the sanctuaries, but also vast storerooms filled with offerings of grain, beer, textiles, and precious metals. There are workshops where artisans craft cultic objects, bakeries where bread for the gods and priests is baked, breweries for beer, and extensive agricultural lands tended by temple laborers. The priests, dressed in their clean white linen, their heads often shaved smooth, are a powerful class. They are educated, administer vast wealth, and perform the daily rituals essential for maintaining Mat. They serve as intermediaries between humanity and the gods, their prayers and offerings ensuring the continued prosperity of Egypt. You, a commoner, might only be allowed into the outer courtyards of a great temple to leave a small offering and offer a prayer. The inner sanctums are reserved for the priests. You feel the immense presence of the divine here, the profound weight of tradition and belief. Finally, though less omnipresent in daily life than the bureaucracy or the temples, is another manifestation of the pharaoh's shadow. You might occasionally see a detachment of soldiers marching in formation, their bronze-tipped spears glinting in the sun, their leather shields emblazoned with the pharaoh's insignia. They are often conscripted from the peasant class, trained and disciplined. Their presence is a reminder of the pharaoh's power to protect Egypt from external enemies, to suppress internal rebellions, and to expand the empire's borders, bringing in tribute and resources. The sight of them instills both a sense of security and a quiet apprehension. You know that their discipline is harsh, their life brutal, a stark contrast to the rhythms of your own village existence. Yet their existence is essential for the stability that allows your life to continue. So, as you step away from this administrative heart, the grand design of ancient Egypt reveals itself as a colossal, meticulously managed enterprise. Every grain of wheat, every crafted object, every hour of labor is accounted for, directed, and ultimately dedicated to the glory of the pharaoh and the maintenance of a divine order. You understand that your individual life, though humble, is woven into this grand tapestry, a tiny thread in a pattern of unimaginable complexity and enduring power. The shadow of the pharaoh, cast by his absolute authority and enforced by his vast bureaucracy, stretches across the entire land, ensuring that the wheels of civilization continue to turn day in and day out, year after year, for millennia. Tonight, let's trace the journey of an ancient Egyptian life, from the first cries of a newborn in a humble mudbrick home to the elaborate preparations for eternity. This journey is steeped in family bonds, guided by practical necessity and shaped by an unwavering belief in a vibrant afterlife. You'll experience the intimate details of life, love, loss, and the ever-present shadow of death, all through the lens of a society deeply rooted in tradition and spiritual conviction. Your life begins, not in a sterile hospital, but in the heart of your home, surrounded by your female relatives. Childbirth is a perilous journey for both mother and child, and you recall the hushed anxieties, the fervent prayers to Toret, the hippopotamus goddess of childbirth, and Base, the dwarf god, protector of mothers and infants. The expectant mother would often squat on birthing bricks, supported by her family, her cries echoing in the small room. The smells of sweat, blood, and the earthy aroma of the mudbrick walls would fill the air. If you were a boy, your birth would be met with a muted sense of practical relief. Another pair of hands for the fields, another link in the family lineage. If you were a girl, the reception might be equally practical. Perhaps a future weaver, a capable homemaker, or a mother to continue the line. There's no gender preference that dictates joy, simply a hope for healthy, surviving children. Infancy is a precarious time. You're swaddled in simple linen cloths, cradled by your mother, who carries you often in a sling. There are no toys as you know them, perhaps a carved wooden doll or a small clay animal to occupy your early years. You're breastfed for an extended period, sometimes up to 3 years, a natural contraceptive and a vital source of nutrition in a world where other foods are often scarce or contaminated. You learn to navigate the uneven mud floors, the heat, the constant buzz of flies. Your early childhood is spent close to your mother, absorbing the rhythms of village life. You hear the ceaseless grinding of grain, the chatter of women, the lowing of cattle, the distant calls from the fields. You learn to speak the ancient language, your first words, simple commands, and the names of your family and the local deities as you grow. Around the age of 4 or 5, your life begins to diverge based on your gender and social standing. If you are a boy from a farming family, your education is practical, experiential. You start accompanying your father to the fields, watching him work the shado of asterisk, learning to handle the hoe, observing the rhythms of planting and harvesting. You learn by doing, your small hands clumsily mimicking your father's expert movements. You feel the sun on your back, the mud between your toes, the scratch of the stubble. You learn about the different crops, the subtle signs of the Nile's impending flood, the names of the constellations that guide planting. Your classroom is the vast expanse of the fertile floodplain. Your teachers, the sun, the river, and your hard-working family. There are no formal schools for you. You learn the invaluable lessons of perseverance, patience, and the harsh realities of survival. If you are a girl, your education is centered in the home. You learn from your mother and older female relatives how to manage the household, how to grind grain, how to bake bread, how to brew beer, how to spin flax into linen thread and weave it into fabric. You learn to care for younger siblings, to prepare meals, to manage the precious water supply, and to recognize medicinal herbs. You learn about cleanliness, often a daily ritual of washing at the Nile, despite the river's own dangers. You learn about the family's simple finances, the bartering at the market. Your world is smaller, more circumscribed by the home, but your contributions are no less vital to the family's survival. The sounds of your education are the rhythmic scraping of the grinding stone, the crackle of the cooking fire, the clatter of clay pots, and the quiet murmuring of women sharing wisdom for the lucky few, particularly boys from scribal families or those identified for their intelligence by a local priest. A formal education awaits. Imagine yourself, if you were one of these rare individuals, sitting in a temple school or a house of life among other boys. The air here smells of papyrus and ink, a stark contrast to the dust and dung of the fields. You learn to read and write hieroglyphs and hieratic script, painstakingly copying texts onto astraca, pottery shards, or papyrus. The teacher, a scribe himself, is strict, often resorting to corporal punishment. A boy's ear is on his back. He listens when he is beaten. You learn arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, history, and religious texts. The goal is to produce competent administrators, priests, doctors, or engineers, the intellectual elite of Egypt. This education is a path to social mobility, a way out of the back-breaking labor of the fields, a chance to serve the pharaoh and the gods with your mind, not just your muscles. Marriage is a practical affair, often arranged by families when you are still young, in your mid. There are no grand romantic proposals. It's about securing alliances, ensuring progeny, and establishing economic stability. For a boy, it means a partner to help run the household and raise children. For a girl, it means moving into her husband's family home, becoming a part of his household. The wedding ceremony itself is often simple, a celebration with family and friends, feasting on bread and beer, perhaps some fish or fowl, dancing to the sounds of a lute or drum. Love, while hoped for, is expected to grow within the marriage, fostered by shared life and mutual respect. Marriages are generally monogamous, though wealthier men might take secondary wives or concubines. Divorce is relatively straightforward, initiated by either partner, and women retain property rights and the custody of their children. This relative equality for women in legal and economic matters is a striking feature of ancient Egyptian society, a stark contrast to many other ancient cultures. As an adult, your daily life is governed by your role within the family and the community. Men typically work outside the home, in the fields, in workshops, or in administration. Women manage the household, raise children, and often engage in home-based production like weaving or brewing. You might spend your evenings gathered with family, telling stories, playing simple board games like or listening to music. The sense of community is strong, a shared existence in the face of life's challenges. You celebrate festivals with great enthusiasm. The Opet Festival, the Festival of the Valley, the Feast of Osiris, offering a welcome respite from the daily grind. filled with processions, music, feasting, and offerings to the gods. These are moments of joy, of collective spiritual renewal, when the boundaries between the living and the divine feel thinner. But the most profound aspect of your life, the one that truly sets you apart from a modern existence, is your unwavering belief in the afterlife. Death is not an ending, but a transition, a journey to the field of reeds, a paradise mirroring your earthly life, but free from its hardships. This belief permeates every aspect of your culture, most visibly in the elaborate preparations for the tomb. When a loved one dies, the grief is real and profound, accompanied by ritual wailing and mourning, but simultaneously, the meticulous preparations for eternity begin. If your family is wealthy enough, the body will undergo mummification, a process that can last up to 70 days. Imagine the scene. The body is taken to a place of purification, often a tent or workshop. You might glimpse the embalmers, their hands stained with natron salts and aromatic resins. The brain is carefully removed through the nose. The internal organs, except the heart, considered the seat of intelligence, are extracted through an incision in the flank and placed in canopic jars, each lid carved with the head of one of Horus's sons. The body is then packed with natron salt, slowly drying out the tissues. The air around such a workshop would be thick with the smell of natron, myrrh, frankincense, and other pungent resins designed to preserve and purify. After drying, the body is anointed with oils and resins, then meticulously wrapped in hundreds of layers of linen bandages, each finger and toe wrapped individually, often with amulets placed between the layers for protection on the journey. The face might be covered with a painted mask, a stylus cedropresentation of the deceased. The tomb itself, whether a simple pit grave for a commoner or a magnificent rock-cut tomb for a noble, is considered the eternal home. For the wealthy, it would be decorated with vibrant paintings and carved reliefs depicting scenes of daily life, agricultural abundance, and joyous feasting, all intended to magically sustain the deceased in the afterlife. The tomb is filled with grave goods, ushabti figures, small servants that would magically come to life to perform manual labor for the deceased, food and drink offerings, clothing, jewelry, and tools. All these are meant to provide for the comfort and continued existence of the *ka*, life force, and *ba*, personality, soul, in the afterlife. You participate in the funeral procession, following the coffin carried by pallbearers, accompanied by professional mourners whose loud wails and dust-covered hair signal the communal grief. The journey culminates at the tomb, where the opening of the mouth ceremony is performed, symbolically restoring the deceased's senses so they can eat, drink, and breathe in the afterlife. Your duties to the deceased continue. You visit the tomb regularly, leaving offerings of bread, beer, and water, speaking their name aloud, believing that by doing so you keep their memory alive and sustain their spirit in the field of reeds. You live your life knowing that your own eventual death is not an end, but a gateway to a new existence, a continuation of the life you have known, but in a perfect, eternal form. This belief system, deeply ingrained from cradle to tomb, provides comfort, meaning, and a profound sense of continuity, allowing you to face the hardships of your earthly existence with remarkable stoicism and an unshakable faith in what lies beyond. Tonight, We leave the fields and the administrative offices and delve into the vibrant, often stifling, world of the ancient Egyptian artisan. This isn't just about making things. It's about creation, about infusing objects with purpose, beauty, and often magic for both the living and the dead. You are stepping into the workshops, feeling the heat of the forge, smelling the dust of stone, and witnessing the meticulous precision that transformed raw materials into masterpieces designed to last for eternity. Imagine yourself in the bustling artisans' quarter of a city like Memphis or Thebes, or within the controlled environment of a temple workshop, or even the intense specialization of a royal tomb-building village like Deir el-Medina. The air here is a rich tapestry of distinct smells, the metallic temps of copper, the earthy scent of wet clay, the sharp aroma of wood being cut, the sweet, resinous fragrance of oils used for finishing. The sounds are a constant, rhythmic symphony, the dull thud of a stone mallet on a chisel, the high-pitched whine of a bow drill, the clang of a metal worker's hammer, the whir of a potter's wheel, the quiet scratch of a painter's brush. This is a world of skilled hands, focused minds, and endless patience. Let's begin with the stone carvers and sculptors. You walk past a workshop where monumental statues are being created. The sheer scale is breathtaking. A vast block of sandstone or granite, hauled from distant quarries, lies waiting. You see teams of workers, their bodies glistening with sweat, using heavy stone mauls to rough out the basic form. The dust is pervasive, coating everything in a fine, gritty layer. The sound is a dull, relentless thud. Then, the skilled carvers step in. You watch as a master craftsman, perhaps an overseer of all the works of the king, directs his team. They use bronze chisels, some blunt, some sharp, and wooden mallets. The work is incredibly slow, painstaking. You feel the vibration of the mallet, the resistance of the stone. Each strike removes only a tiny amount of material. To create the smooth, iconic surfaces, they use abrasive sands and grinding stones, polishing for hours, days, weeks, until the stone gleams. Imagine the concentration, the unwavering focus, as they carve the delicate features of a pharaoh's face, the intricate details of a god's regalia, all while working under the relentless Egyptian sun. The feeling of the cool, smooth stone under your fingertips is a testament to countless hours of dedicated labor. Next door, perhaps you find the jewelers. This is a place of delicate precision and shimmering beauty. The air is still, perhaps a faint scent of charcoal from small furnaces. You watch, mesmerized, as a jeweler, often working with a magnifying lens, a polished piece of rock crystal, carefully manipulates tiny pieces of gold, silver, and semi-precious stones. The gold, usually alluvial gold from Nubia or the eastern desert, is hammered into thin sheets, then cut, shaped, and often granulated into intricate patterns. You see the glint of tiny tools, tweezers, gravers, small hammers. They use blowpipes to direct the flame of a charcoal fire, soldering minute pieces together with incredible skill. You see them inlaying lapis lazuli, turquoise, carnelian, and amethyst into gold, creating vibrant, jewel-toned masterpieces. The precision is astounding, requiring perfect eyesight and steady hands. Imagine the feel of a finished piece, the coolness of gold against your skin, the smooth, polished surface of a carefully set gemstone. These aren't just adornments. They are often imbued with symbolic meaning, meant to protect, to signify status, and to accompany the deceased into the afterlife. Nearby, the potters work with the most ubiquitous material, Nile clay. The air here is earthy, damp, and often warm from the kilns. You see the potter, often a humble craftsman, spinning his wheel with his foot or hand, centering a lump of reddish-brown clay. With astonishing speed and grace, his hands coax the clay upwards, shaping it into bowls, jars, plates, and cooking vessels. The rhythmic whir of the wheel, the squish of the wet clay, the soft slap of his hands, these are the sounds of this workshop. Once shaped, the pots are left to dry in the sun, then fired in simple open-air kilns, or more elaborate enclosed ones, where the heat transforms the soft clay into durable ceramic. The smell of wood smoke, sometimes pungent, sometimes acrid, fills the air during firing. For everyday use, the pots are unglazed and often left plain. Their reddish-brown color, a constant reminder of the Nile mud from which they came. For finer vessels, they might be painted with simple designs, or sometimes covered in a blue-green faience glaze, a precursor to glass, adding a touch of vibrant color. You feel the rough texture of a utilitarian storage jar, the smooth, cool surface of a finished bowl. The papyrus makers and scribes work in a different atmosphere altogether, quieter, more intellectual. The smell here is distinctly herbaceous, the scent of the papyrus plant itself, mixed with the faint, sweet smell of gum arabic, used as a binder for ink. You might observe the meticulous process of papyrus manufacture. Strips of the papyrus plant pith, cut longitudinally, are laid side by side, then another layer laid perpendicularly on top. The layers are pounded together, the natural saps acting as an adhesive, and then pressed and dried, creating a smooth, flexible writing surface. This is a precious commodity, not cheaply made. The scribes then take these sheets, or entire rolls, and with their reed pens and ink, they record the vast history, administration, and literature of Egypt. The gentle scratch of the pen, the rustle of the roll being unfurled, the quiet murmur of dictation, these are the sounds of knowledge being preserved. You would feel the crisp, slightly fibrous texture of a papyrus sheet, the smooth glide of the reed pen within the grander workshops, especially those dedicated to royal tombs or temple decoration. You find the painters and relief carvers. These are true artists, working under the strictest religious and aesthetic guidelines. The walls of a tomb or temple are first meticulously smoothed. Then, a master draftsman outlines the scenes in red ochre, often guided by grid lines. You watch as painters, using brushes made from chewed reeds or fibrous plants, fill in the outlines with vibrant mineral pigments, deep blues from azurite, bright yellows from orpiment, rich reds from ochre, verdant greens from malachite, and stark blacks from soot. The air is thick with the smell of these pigments, mixed with the slight temps of the gum or egg white binders. The colors are applied flat without shading, creating the distinctive, timeless style of Egyptian art. The work is slow, precise, requiring a steady hand and an intimate knowledge of symbolic representation. Every gesture, every figure, every color choice carries meaning. You feel the cool, smooth surface of a freshly painted wall, the dry, slightly powdery texture of the pigments. Finally, consider the carpenters and furniture makers. Wood is a valuable resource in Egypt, mostly imported from Lebanon, cedar or Nubia ebony. The air in their workshop smells of sawdust, fresh-cut wood, and perhaps beeswax used for polishing. You hear the rhythmic sawing of wooden planks, the sharp tap of chisels carving intricate patterns, the scrape of sand used to smooth surfaces. Carpenters use copper or bronze tools, saws, ADSs. They construct everything from simple stools and beds for commoners to elaborately carved and inlaid chests, chairs, and sarcophagi for the elite. For royal pieces, they might use exotic woods inlaid with ivory, ebony, or even precious metals. The craftsmanship is often exquisite, pieces assembled with mortise and tenon joints, dowels and glues made from animal hide, demonstrating an advanced understanding of joinery without modern fasteners. You feel the grain of the wood under your hand, the smooth, polished surface of a finished chair, the intricate carving that tells a story or offers protection.